Good day, Doc Mel and classmates. This is the continuation of Module 4 about the theories and models of CSR communication. Sir Norman already discussed the behavior change theory, legitimacy theory, and Halahan's theory of framing. On my part, I will discuss stakeholder information strategy, stakeholder response theory, stakeholder involvement theory, and stakeholder management adaptation. Although some of these were discussed by the other reporters from the other group, but I will still give additional details about the theories mentioned. I am Yrmeliza Rodriguez and I will be your reporter for the third part of Module 4. So let's start with the stakeholder information strategy. So here, communication is basically viewed as telling, not listening. So we can say that there is one-way communication, and the purpose is to disseminate information. But of course, there is still this intention of informing the public as objectively as possible about the organization. So in the stakeholder information strategy, this is still similar to Grunig and Hunt's public information model, where it is said that communication is always one way, that is from the organization to its stakeholders. And still, when we are talking of stakeholder information strategy, companies do engage in active press relations programs. They even write press releases. They also produce information and news for the media. For our example, we have Coca-Cola. So for Coca-Cola, this means communicating with, let's say, the launch of a new product. So the promotion of a new community initiative or the release of a Super Bowl ad. So these messages are news from the Coca-Cola company. And still, here the company gives sense to its audience. So the stakeholder information model assumes that stakeholders are influential because they can either give support in terms of purchasing habits, showing loyalty and praising the company, or they can also show opposition. So therefore, the company must inform stakeholders about its good intentions, decisions, and actions to ensure positive stakeholder support. So that is for stakeholder information strategy. For stakeholder response theory, here it is based on a two-way asymmetric communication model. So this is as opposed to the two-way symmetric model of the stakeholder involvement strategy. Stakeholder involvement strategy will be discussed later on. So, but actually for these two models, communication flows to and from the public. So still on stakeholder response theory, here the company needs to engage stakeholders by making the corporate decisions and actions relevant for them because the company needs the external endorsement from external stakeholders. Our example would be Johnson & Johnson. So Johnson & Johnson takes an approach to sustainable business that includes engaging its stakeholders on a global, regional, and local level that help Johnson & Johnson gain valuable insights from its stakeholders' perspectives and the topics that matter to them. So this engagement also allows Johnson & Johnson to share information about their company's strategy, practices, and performance. So in the stakeholder response theory, communication is perceived as feedback in terms of finding out what the public will accept and tolerate. So this is an evaluative model of measuring whether a particular communication initiative has improved stakeholder understanding of the company and vice versa. So in stakeholder response theory, feedback matters. So now let's move to the stakeholder involvement theory. For this, it assumes a dialogue with its stakeholders. And persuasion may occur, but it comes from stakeholders as well as from the organization itself, each trying to persuade the other to change. Because here, the stakeholder involvement strategy takes the notion of the stakeholder relationship to an extreme. So companies should not only influence, but also seek to be influenced by stakeholders and therefore change when necessary. So, in stakeholder involvement theory, rather than imposing a particular CSR initiative on stakeholders, the stakeholder involvement strategy invites concurrent negotiation with its stakeholders to explore their concern vis-a-vis with the company, while, of course, also accepting changes when they are necessary. So, by engaging in dialogue with stakeholders, the company ideally ensures that it keeps abreast not only of its stakeholders' concurrent expectations, but also of its potential influence on those expectations, as well as letting those expectations influence and change the company itself. So, still on the stakeholder involvement theory, we have here Nomura as an example. So Nomura is a global financial services group with an integral network spanning over 30 countries. And to understand the expectations and requests of society and reflect this in business activities and CSR activities, Nomura believes that dialogue with stakeholders inside and outside the group is important. So therefore, the stakeholder involvement strategy suggests that companies engage frequently and systematically in dialogue with their stakeholder in order to explore mutually beneficial action, assuming that both parties involved in the dialogue are willing to change. So stakeholder involvement theory really assumes dialogue. And the last theory that I will cover is the stakeholder management adaptation. So this is based on Preble's stakeholder approach or stakeholder management approach. And here, a valuable contribution and tool to utilize in relation to the financial performance of an organization is by using this approach. And this can be done by following the steps in stakeholder management process, which involves these steps. Okay, and here the stakeholder approach or the stakeholder management adaptation, it simply tells us that it is a systematic and organized process of strengthening, engaging, and monitoring the organization's relationship with the stakeholders. So, from all the four theories that I have discussed, really the center is the stakeholder. So, I hope that from my short report, you have learned something from it. These are my references, and please to answer the guide questions. And thank you very much. Maraming salamat po.